Welcome to a special edition of Life and Living. I'm Joanna Gagas. Another great show for you today. Later on, we're going to be talking to someone about managing our personal finances. Do you know if what you're doing is right? Also, later on, we'll be going on location to the County College of Morris to see some of the terrific programs that they have going on there. But right now, in the studio with us is Sandi Duncan, Managing Editor of the Farmer's Almanac. Now, our audience may not know that the Farmer's Almanac was founded right here in Morristown in 1818.
It was. Actually, they say David Young, our founding editor, was actually born in Pine Brook, also East Hanover, so it definitely has roots right here in New Jersey.
Now, the readership today is roughly 2.5 million readers.
Well, our circulation's about 2.5 million copies. We have a retail version of the Farmer's Almanac that's sold throughout the country. We have a Canadian Farmer's Almanac that's sold in Canada. And we have a promotional version of the Farmer's Almanac that's sold to businesses as a public relations tool or promotional product.
So it's still a hugely successful publication. And I think, you know, to be honest with you, when I first heard Farmer's Almanac, I thought, is that still relevant today? But it is. And it's evolved. So let's talk about what people can find within the book.
Sure. I think sometimes people, when they hear the word Farmer's Almanac, they think, oh, it's just for farmers, it's not for me. But really, the Farmer's Almanac was named after the people of its time, farmers, hardworking, honest people. And today, you know, there's a growing trend for people to get back to nature, to get back to organic lifestyles, to get back to natural remedies, to get away from all the chemicals. So the Farmer's Almanac really not only is known for its long-range weather forecast, but it has gardening tips for people that may want to try their hand at gardening. Or we talk about natural living advice. We talk about, you know, how can you stop a cough with some apple cider vinegar rather than the cough medicine that's full of all kind of chemicals. So we're really kind of a grow your life type of publication. As you mentioned, we have a print version of the Almanac, but we're also online at farmersalmanac.com. We have social media. So we've really evolved because we want to be in the 21st century. We're nostalgic, but yet we're current to people in this day and age.
The weather forecast, I think, is still forefront in everyone's mind. People want to know what's going to happen this year. And the Farmer's Almanac has, I know it's secret, so we can't talk about how you predict, but you have a formula that helps you predict weather down to a 3-day period. Is that right, for an entire year?
Yes, the weather formula is secret. It's only known by one person, but it is an actual formula. It's a mathematical and astronomical formula. It takes things like sunspot activity, tidal action on the moon, position of the planets into consideration. And what each edition of the Farmer's Almanac does is we offer 16 months of weather forecast for the entire country. Now we break the country into zones, so New Jersey would be in zone 1, which consists of New Jersey all the way up to Maine. And then we give 3 days at a time, and we give a forecast pretty much for a year out.
Can we see how accurate you've been already, early 2015?
Well, I would say that if you look back and all the snow that came and all how cold it was, and we said chivalry and chivalry, absolutely, we're pretty much on the mark.
All right, let's see. We've got zone 1 is the Northeast. We talk about late January 24th to the 27th, snow for the Mid-Atlantic area to New England. Is that not the storm we just saw last week?
It absolutely is, and we didn't call for this historic craziness that some other media might have been doing, or other national weather people might be doing. So yeah, you know, we do our best, and people still use it really to plan ahead. You know, you can turn on your local forecaster, you can look at your phone, but no one else kind of goes out on a limb and says what's going to happen this spring or what's going to happen this summer. We have brides-to-be always calling us, or people that are planning picnics, or they want to take the best week in the summer for their vacation, and really they use it for a planning kind of weather forecast.
You know, that's a good point. Brides, there's so much anxiety about the weather on your wedding day. So I imagine that brides who don't know about this can use this as a resource to say, in June on this particular weekend, what does the forecast look like? And it's accurate down to, you said, about a 3-day range?
Yeah, we do 3 days at a time, and sometimes, you know, our forecasts are off by a couple days, and we can't guarantee the weather, but nobody can guarantee the weather, but we kind of give an idea of what we're predicting to kind of guide a bride-to-be, a mom, a bride-to-be, of what might be the best time to hold a wedding.
And the accuracy is 80 to 85% correct?
Yeah, people that follow our forecast say we're 80 to 85% accurate. And last year, the big thing was, you know, remember the Super Bowl that was held in New Jersey? And we had said that there would be a possible snowstorm during that period. Now, as you mentioned, we give 3 days at a time. So on the day of the Super Bowl, it was very nice. But if you remember, a couple hours later, that snowstorm did come, and we hit it right on the nail on the head.
Doesn't it feel good when you're right?
It does.
Now, you mentioned some of the other things that we can find in the Almanac. You have not just a hand in, you really oversee and have complete creative control, I guess I'd say, over everything that goes in this almanac. You're trying to be current. You're trying to stay with the here and now. What are some tips, pointers that people can find in here?
Sure. Well, you know, it's funny because you think Farmer's Almanac, you think it's been around for almost 200 years, so how could it be current? But in this year's edition, we talk about, you know, if you lend something to someone, maybe some weed cutters or something from your kitchen, why not take a picture with your smartphone so that you remember with the person borrowing it, so you remember who you lent it to, and later on you can remember where it is if it doesn't get returned. We have tips about raw honey. Like raw honey is a great way to use as a health kind of a thing for sunburn, to actually help with sleep, to help with coughs. Apple cider vinegar. If you have a cough at nighttime, you should sprinkle your pillow with a little apple cider vinegar, and it should help relieve your cough. We talk about doing a garden makeover. We have average frost dates to help you plan your garden. And again, you don't have to be a farmer to use the Farmer's Almanac, but maybe you want to grow some of your own tomatoes or learn how to live life a little more organically. And in this year's edition too, we talk about, you know, everybody wants to live organically, but it can become expensive. So we offer some tips and advice on ways to, you know, eat a little bit more organically, but on a budget. You know, what's the best things to do? And one of my favorite tips is, you know, if you eat chicken a lot, then maybe you should go for the extra cost and buy the organic chicken. But if you only eat it once in a while, that maybe it's okay not to have the organic type.
I saw the dirty dozen listed in here, and then there's the 15 that you actually don't need to buy organic. So some really good tips for shoppers. As I was looking through this, I said, did I get a defective book here? There's a hole in the top corner of my book. What is that hole for?
Oh, it's so tradition. It's actually started back in 1818 when the first edition came off the press, and is to hang it up. And at that time, it was kind of hang it in the outhouse, so you have a convenient place for it. So we've continued the tradition, and I know people that hang it in their bathrooms with a string.
So, you know, where are you getting these ideas? Are you communicating with farmers from around New Jersey, from around the country?
Well, you know, like I said, it's not just farmers. It's people that maybe, you know, kind of like cowboys. Farming is kind of romanticized in this day and age, but people do want to learn how to can their own tomatoes. They want to maybe learn how to grow herbs indoors. So we do have a broad base of freelancers from around the country. And we also get a lot of feedback from our Facebook page, from our website, and just from readers who, you know, sometimes they question something and we're like, oh, that would make a good story. So we kind of stay on brand and get some ideas from our readers as well.
Sandi Duncan, Phelam, you actually were just given that title, Phelam. It means lover of learning.
It does. It's actually an abbreviation for the word philomath. It's a Greek word that means lover of learning. And Ben Franklin, who had a Farmer's Almanac back in the early 1700s, used that title after his name when he put out an almanac, as did our founding editor, David Young, as did some of our editors. And a few years ago, I was officially given the title of Phelam.
Well, congratulations on that. Sandi Duncan, managing editor of Farmer's Almanac. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's terrific. Don't go anywhere. Life and Living is staying here right after this. Thank you.
Life and Living has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence, and NJTV. Funding for this edition of Life and Living with Joanna Gaggis has been provided by PSE&G, JFK Medical Center, MagnaCare, Johnson & Johnson, New Jersey Sharing Network, Cone Resnick, and by the Russell Berry Foundation. Promotional support provided by NJ.com, Small News, Big News, True Jersey, and by Commerce Magazine. Life and Living with Joanna Gaggis has been produced in partnership with St. Joseph's Healthcare System.